distracting. So I turned them all off.
Oh, here.
There he is. Okay.
It's 7 PM. I'm going to call the ZBA meeting to order. Ken, roll call.
Blackburn.
Present.
Hageman.
Here.
Hedge.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Craybill.
Here.
Mashigian.
Here.
Everyone's here.
Great. I just want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. So if you could silence your cell phones, and if you come to the podium, you are being recorded. The public comment, Ken, we didn't remember to add it to this agenda, so I am going to ask for a motion to approve an amended agenda with public comment added.
I will so move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So, is there any public comment? Seeing none? Next, we're going to move on to the election of the ZBA officers. Ken, would you like to explain how this has worked?
Sure. We don't have very many ZBA meetings, as you all know. It's August, and this is the first variance request we've had. Our zoning ordinance requires an election of officers. I frankly don't recall doing this before. I think typically the president has been the chair of the ZBA, and the president pro tem has been the vice chair of the ZBA. But we need to approve a chair and a vice chair. So with that, the nominating
Would you
would be
entertain a
done.
motion?
Pardon me?
Would you entertain a motion?
Of course.
Oh. At whatever point we're ready.
Were you done speaking?
I am done.
Okay, we need a motion to nominate a chair.
Okay. I nominate D.E. Hageman as chair of the ZBA.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Are there other nominations?
Go ahead.
I would like to nominate Lisa as chair.
Second?
Do we have to vote on one motion at a time? I believe we do. At least that's what Robert's Rules was telling me.
Actually, if I can insert myself in the
Sure.
process, normally how you do this, well, I shouldn't say normally how you do this. Normally how this would generally go in most communities is you don't make a motion yet, you accept nominations. So you put, you open up the floor for nominations, and people nominate whoever, and so maybe you end up with 2 candidates, maybe you end up with 3 candidates, but then you vote on each individual candidate. Whichever candidate gets the 4 votes, that's the person that becomes. So instead of the motion that Ms. Howard made, she would nominate D.E. Instead of the motion that Kurt made, he would nominate you, and if there were any other nominations, that'd be fine too, and then you vote on all of the candidates, and you can only vote for 1 candidate. That's generally how I've seen it done.
Okay. Then we'll do it that way. So the floor is open for nominations.
So I nominate D.E. Hageman as chair of the ZBA.
Any other nominations?
I would nominate Lisa as the chair of the ZBA.
Are there any other nominations? Then,
Now you would vote.
now we vote.
Now you vote.
So all of those in favor of DE being the chair, please say aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, can you speak up?
Those in favor of DE
Okay.
being chair, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Can I vote for myself?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Those in favor of myself being chair, say aye.
Aye.
3 to 4.
Okay. You are the chair,
Thank you.
President Blackburn.
Next, we will open the floor for nominations for vice chair. I would like to nominate Kurt, trustee Jones as president pro tem to stand in as vice chair for ZBA, as done traditionally.
I second. Oh, you have to second.
Are there any other nominations? Those in favor of trustee Jones being vice chair for ZBA, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Kurt is the vice chair. Trustee Jones is vice chair. Thank you for that. Moving on to case 2023-01. We have a presentation by Mr. Templeton.
Good evening. My name is Ben Templeton. I live at 23172 Old Orchard Trail. I'm representing Templeton Building Company at 735 Forest, Birmingham, Michigan. I'm here on behalf of the Whitfield family for their property at 31291 Old Stage, and they also occupy the property at 31429 Coach Lane. Got past the addresses. You're here this morning because the driveway on the new house at the Old Stage address is out of compliance with the zoning ordinance. So we're asking for a variance this evening on the driveway to leave it as is. I submitted to you a application which had a good amount of information on it. This evening also gave you a supplemental piece signed by 6 of the 8 neighbors on the street. I would have had all 8, but in my 3 visits, the 2 were never home. So just so you know what that is and where it's from. To answer the questions that you have posted behind me, strict compliance with this is unnecessarily burdensome because the amount of work that the homeowner would do to replace the driveway, it would include replacing the entire driveway, the sidewalk to the front porch, and the sidewalk to the rear porch, causing not only the homeowner undue stress and anxiety, but also the neighborhood once again after a 2-year project. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant and other property owners. Substantial justice to be done to the homeowner because they'll be able to leave their property as is, landscaped as is, concrete as is, and substantial justice to the other neighbors. They've all signed a letter saying they hope the driveway remains as is. A lesser variance than requested will not give substantial relief to the applicant. For the reasons I just stated, removing the landscape in the driveway, the sidewalks, both sidewalks. The need for the variance is due to unique circumstances peculiar to the property. The driveway was put in the way it is for a couple different reasons, one of which being the grade difference between the property and their neighbor is actually unique to the neighborhood. There's about a 8-inch difference between the 2 property heights. That's the way it was when we took over the property. That's the way it is now. So a good portion of the driveway is actually a curb holding back the land in that location. So 8 inches of the driveway is a incorporated curb to allow for that. And also, while the neighbor's driveway drains onto our driveway, it allows for that to be pushed right out to the sewer system. Problems resulting. The neighbor, the homeowner is not self-created. Unfortunately, I created it, and we're asking for forgiveness. Unfortunately, when we did review the section of the building code that architects and builders look at, which I believe is 157, there's no driveway widths in that section. It's actually located in a different section of the ordinances, 97.03, which we did not look at, did not know that was there. So that's the other part of my presentation is the R3 district is a little unique to the village in the fact that there's only 2 R3 districts. One is Old Stage and Coach Lake, and the other is Outlands, thank you. Went through and we measured every single driveway in Outlands, Old Orchard, or not, it's Coach Light and Old Stage. In the Coach Light, Old Stage area, there are 3 driveways within compliance of the ordinance. And in Outlands, there are 5. So, and I believe we put that in our report that there are only 8 of the 46 driveways in the entire R3 district that meet the actual ordinance. So, my presentation is done. Happy to take any questions.
When you say the others were out, we're only talking about width, or were they out for others?
Width is all I was concerned about because that's all I'm here for.
So the other, all those driveways are wider than the current ordinance that you,
Correct.
all the ones that you said were not compliant?
Correct.
Okay. Is it been, it's just crazy with so many of them out, maybe that changed at some point before, I mean, those are pretty old neighborhoods, right?
Outlands look like, and I'm not familiar with the maintenance of Outlands, looks like there's been repaving over time, which has caused that. And similar in the other 2 areas, looks like there's been new driveways poured, there's been borders added, not necessarily something that somebody may have a landscaper done and not pulled a permit for. I don't know, I didn't do them, and so.
Were any of them as wide as this?
Yes. There are multiple that are that wide or wider. 1, 2, 3, 4 in that neighborhood that are wider.
That are wider?
Yeah.
In the neighborhood where this variance is?
In the area where this variance is, yes.
So was that done intentionally then,
Was what done intentionally?
pouring the concrete as wide as it is?
It was not. It was a mistake, and I hate to say as many people as I have working on projects, it was a mistake made by myself. We laid out the driveway. I was unaware of the actual width, and I poured what I thought would look best with the house. So it's 100%. This is my fault. Doesn't happen much, but it happens.
How close is it to the property line?
This is 5 feet from the property line. I have to double check that. I don't think that's true. I have to look at the survey.
Actually, the problem is we don't have a construction plan that we can see.
The
what it
village
was
should.
supposed to
We've
be.
submitted construction plans, we've submitted surveys, we've submitted everything. It's a new house, so the village has a copy of everything we've done.
I asked for one today, and they said you didn't submit any.
I didn't submit for
plan.
this because I figured the village would have what we submitted for a permit to build the home.
All I have is a plot survey, which is busy with elevations and tree locations.
I can pull that up real quick and tell you the actual. It's going to take me a second to pull it up, but I can pull it up.
While we're waiting on that, can I ask a question of Ken?
Yes.
How many other vacant buildable lots are there in the R3 area?
None now.
And how about R2?
I don't believe there are any, but I'd have to look.
Okay, so
No, I would say no in R2 also.
this is the first time in my 6 years that this particular ordinance has ever even been mentioned by anybody. And it seems like since there are no other vacant buildable lots, it's unlikely that this problem is going to occur in the future. Because unless somebody like tears down a house or something like that, there aren't any other vacant lots to be built on, correct? As far as we know?
There's a vacant lot on Old Orchard Trail,
Okay,
but that's R1.
R1, okay.
Well, the other issue is not just the new build, it's somebody that needs to replace the concrete or blacktop in their driveway. And at that point, they would decide whether they wanted to make it wider or embellish it in any way.
To answer your question, the driveway is 3 feet from the property line of the house and 5 feet at the road.
I just want to add, for everybody's edification, that this is a non-use variance, which has those elements listed to find, so you have to find practical difficulty. But every case is decided on their own merits, so however the board decides today doesn't set precedents for any future cases, because every case has different set of facts. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
My only problem, if I may, I'm a visual guy. I have no idea what the original plans were, what was done, what ended up. I want to measure something. I want to see what it looks like. And therefore, I have a very hard time voting for something like this that I haven't seen. I haven't seen the original plans. I don't know. Again, I can't see anything, so for me, it's very difficult to vote for something like this.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah, but it's not
Comparing.
plans. I want to
No.
see plans with dimensions.
Plans are, this is all that I got today. Originally, it was a 12-foot width.
Which actually being less than 75 feet could have gone to 18.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. And these are, the neighbors are like this, and this is the house. And there's one, here's another one, here's another
Well,
one.
I understand the curbing, so literally you could cut back here, back to, you could take
Concrete saw,
4 feet out
yeah.
to make it compliant. And
Good,
it basically, it's a saw cut and removal.
yeah.
Can I respond to that?
I've got several houses that surround it that are all within compliance.
I took the measurements myself. They're not.
And
Mr. Hageman, if you don't mind, it's not as simple as a saw cut. If you were to saw cut the left side, you're now taking out the width needed to back out of the driveway from the garage. If you take out of the right side, you're taking out the width needed where the both sidewalks to the front and to the rear are attached to the home. Once you cut 4 feet out, you've now ruined the symmetry of the relief lines cut in the driveway. Now the driveway will not look nice at all. It'll look very sloppy. Hence the need to rip the entire driveway out and both walkways. You can't just pour a 4 feet section of concrete. It won't match. They're poured 2 different times. The concrete color won't match. It will be quite a large project.
Could you give an estimate as to what it would cost?
Somewhere in the rounds is $50,000 to $55,000.
that's what I was quoted to redo my entire driveway, all 90 feet of circular with the 2 parking pads. Really, no,
I'm not sure what kind of driveway you have, if it's asphalt
Concrete.
or concrete,
concrete.
but I just poured this driveway in, so I know exactly what it costs. We just paid for it.
Wow,
So
yeah,
I'm not sure what
it's
the,
amazing.
I'm just new to the whole process of the zoning board, and we received from Ken a whole handbook of materials on the guidelines that we are to follow. And this is a new council. I can't speak to the sins of other councils in allowing variances or whatever they might have been, but we have to take a look at what are the rules. And following the rules, paragraph 15 on page 7, it says incomplete applications, i.e. inadequate site plans, should not be accepted. And inadequate applications, it was supposed to come with 10 sets of plans, and we didn't get that. Did we miss something, Ken?
No, you didn't miss. I I asked the applicant if he was going to submit a presentation, and he just said no. You don't have to submit the plans.
And
And
if
here.
I don't mind
Right.
me responding,
Right.
the village has those. They were submitted to the village. That's how the village knows that we need a variance. That was submitted with our temporary C of O application. I did not realize I needed to submit those. It wasn't requested. We'd be happy to submit them. It's a simple click of a button on an email. We were under the impression the village had them. I apologize.
Okay, I guess I'm getting it. Ken says he doesn't have them, so I don't know.
We have all the plans for this home. It's not the village's responsibility to put together a presentation on behalf of an applicant. So I wasn't going to have myself or the rest of the staff put together a presentation advocating for why a variance should or should not be given. Secondly, as you all probably well know, Ben and I worked together for 4 years, and for me to put together a package on behalf of Templeton Building Company it doesn't work for me.
I'm just trying to follow the rules, that's all, I guess.
But we
Trustee
do
Howard,
have, yeah.
could you tell me what that number 15 said again?
Pardon me?
Could you tell me what Rule 15 said again?
Okay, it says 25, paragraph 25 on
25,
page 7, and this is the book that we received on the Zoning Board of Appeals handbook. That's the document that this is from. And it says, following the rules, it is especially important that the Zoning Board of Appeals establish a consistent method of processing applications, conducting meetings, and handling other procedures. As noted earlier, the ZBA should have a set of written procedures or bylaws for those rules of operation not covered by the zoning ordinances. Some common considerations follow. Incomplete applications, i.e., inadequate site plans, unpaid, should not be accepted.
Yeah. To that, the only thing I would say, and I apologize, if my application shouldn't have been accepted, I should have been aware, and I probably shouldn't be here, but my application was accepted, and I'm here, and I have submitted everything needed to the village. I'd be happy to come back next month after submitting whatever you need.
I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the reference in that handbook, which is not, as I understand it, our statute, but I think that is referring to a situation where someone is coming requesting a variance before the project is built. In other words, that's what happens most of the time is you have a request for a variance before the project is built, and then you would want them to submit the plans that they were going to use to build the project. This, unfortunately, has happened after, so there's not really any new plans to submit. I mean, he submitted the plans when the building was built, and he submitted an as-built survey, I believe that's what it's called, once the building was completed. So I think that reference is to a different situation than the one that we're talking about tonight.
Can I just say that the plans that were submitted to build were not, it was not 22 feet across. That's the disparity. When the engineer, or is it an inspector, or is our engineer went out to do a final inspection and found that it was built not as designed, it had been altered. And that's when apparently they brought it to Ken's attention. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
It's actually a hair incorrect, and I apologize. The plans we submitted in the beginning are our permit drawings. On somewhere in the area, June 9th, we submitted what our engineers did as an as-built survey. We submit that to the village engineers review that and send us back their comments. So the village engineers just review our drawing. They don't go out to the site itself. So our engineers created this. So just a little clarity for you.
Well,
Just to be clear, the engineer did visit the property, Ben.
Oh, I apologize, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think what you were saying, Ben, is your engineer drew the driveway at 22 feet in the as-built.
In the as-built, yeah.
So he didn't draw it at 12 and we caught it.
Correct.
You submitted it at
We
the
submitted
current
it. It's
drawing.
not that we got caught. We submitted
You
what we
submitted
did.
at the-
We realized our didn't realize our mistake till we got our as-built back and told that we were out of compliance. It's not something we hid. It's not something we tried to hide.
It's
It's
different than
an honest
submitting a
mistake.
drawing with 12 and our engineer
That's correct.
went out and
Correct.
measured it and it was 22.
Correct. This is not something we tried to hide. This is something that when we found, we immediately submitted and let you know.
That plot plan, you had a copy of it?
Oh, I did. Is it with the pictures? It's right here.
This is the as-built then?
No, that is the plot plan that was approved.
That's this, okay.
It's from Templeton.
But that's the,
plot
that's not the as-built, sorry, I thought it was.
plan. No. The as-built would have been 18.
So everything that was to be submitted was submitted correctly years ago, previous to the build. That went through the process.
Correct.
The problem came when they actually physically came to pour the driveway. It was poured
It
incorrectly.
was poured incorrectly.
Right.
And then we submit our as-built, which we're required to do. Anybody that builds a home in this village is required to submit an as-built survey showing exactly what they did.
Right.
And that's where the driveway was brought to our attention.
Right. So all the plans and all of that stuff, it's not like that wasn't submitted. That was submitted years ago,
Yeah, 2 years ago.
the
or so.
originals, right? Yes?
Two things. In reference to Outlands having some of the driveways not in compliance, I think that was done before we put in the code for the 75 feet. You could have 18 feet. Less than that, I think it went up to 30. So that was, I think Outlands was done before all the codes went in, number one. Number two, I disagree a little bit with Mr. Beckerlich in that I believe that whatever we set as precedent becomes precedent. Therefore, somebody else could come along and say, well, he's got a 22-foot driveway, I can have a 22-foot driveway. So that's one other thing that we disagree with, but those are my two things.
And I can tell you also that we've had two neighbors on our street that did beautiful decorative driveways. And we're forced to rip them out because they were 12 feet and not 9.
I really want to focus on this in front of us,
Well,
that
but
your
this-
neighbors are not on the agenda. So let's just really try to keep
Lisa,
focusing.
It's all about precedent. It's what's happened historically. It's what we're building for our future. We are here to make sure that our village remains the character and the beauty, and so that we're not careless. That's all. Yeah, I think it's important to say.
I'm just saying, we really tend to go off, and I'm just really going to start enforcing the rules as they should. We have an applicant before us. We are looking at this home. We've been told that this along, and I know the DRB always disagreed, there's no precedent with this, and we really just need to focus on what's in front of us and not on what everybody else in the village is doing.
Ms. Michigan, I would say this house does embody the character of the village.
I'm not saying anything about the house.
No, but the property as a whole, I think it's landscaped very well to match the neighborhood that it's in.
Welcome.
And I think, the neighbors that abut this property agree they don't want the driveway ripped out. It does not, the ZBA decision made tonight does not set a precedent. It is in your ordinances, it's in your laws that precedence is not set. It's unique to this property. And I think the most powerful thing is the neighbors like it. They want it to stay.
Can I just go back to my question? You said it was 3 feet from the property line?
Yes.
Okay, is that going to cause a problem when the person next door goes to sell their property? Is there a restriction to how close something can be from one property to the other property?
We are not out of compliance in any
Okay.
way whatsoever as far as
With the-
driveway with the other properties.
Okay.
As long as it's on our property, we're within compliance.
Okay,
The only thing we're out of compliance with is the width.
is the width, okay.
I'll give my 2 cents since everybody else has spoken. I feel like, we are concerned with the neighbors as well in the community. And they endured a lot of construction during that whole process. It went on, we all know it was COVID and delays. They also had the street situation where the street sort of collapsed, or I'm not even going to get into that. But so, that the neighbors on that road have endured a lot of construction, and this would be a lot more construction. And when you drive by the house, obviously we know that it's too wide, but I don't feel like people drive by and think, oh, it's a wide driveway. It doesn't look out of character. It looks appropriate for the size of the lot and the house. I'm not one to waste. I don't like wasting, which doesn't really have much to do with this, but I'm just going to say I don't like wasting something that's perfectly good. Like I say, with the side, when you're asking for a side entrance garage also, I know the driveway could be skinnier at the beginning, but it is hard as vehicles have gotten bigger and that. It is hard to swing yourself into a garage when the driveway is thinner. So again, that's neither here nor there, but those are my 2 cents. The neighbors are asking us not to force more construction there, significant construction. And I guess that's what I have to say on it. Do you have anything else, Mr. Templeton?
Nothing to add unless there's any more questions.
Is there, pardon?
Any public comment?
Public hearings next.
I was going to do the public hearing next.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I am going to open the public hearing at 7:32. Are there any,
On any issue or
just on this issue?
just on this issue?
Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:33. And if there's no more board discussion, I am going to ask for a motion. More discussion.
Well, more discussion and a motion, I guess. This is, to me, really a very troubling one, a tough one to come up with a decision, and I can already tell that there are two groups on the board, and so I'm going to present a motion that maybe is a little bit of compromise and probably no one will be happy with, but going to make it anyway. And what I'm coming up with is that this regulation about the driveway width is not in the zoning code at all. It's in a separate, totally separate section of the ordinance. And and that's why it got missed, quite frankly. Or at least I assume that's why it got missed. It's in a section, and it's called a civil misdemeanor. And that section lays out penalties for this particular civil misdemeanor. I am assuming, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, this is the first time that you've ever had an issue with this ordinance. Is that correct?
It is.
The penalty in that section, the specific section that deals with the driveway width, is $500. And that can be done by, the village can actually, as I understand it, could actually bring a proceeding in court to $500, and I don't think anybody wants us to bring a proceeding in court. And so I just can't see the benefit of tearing out a driveway at that kind of expense I can't see that that is a benefit to the community, especially when all the neighbors are opposed to doing it. On the other hand, Templeton Building made a mistake. And so to try to recognize both sides of the issue, I would move that a variance allowing the driveway on the subject property to be 22 feet wide be granted on the condition that Templeton Building Company pay the village $500 in lieu of the village enforcement action over the width of the driveway under the ordinance section 97.03A.
Second.
Any discussion?
Could you repeat the motion one more time, please?
I move that a variance allowing the driveway on the subject property to be 22 feet wide be granted on the condition that Templeton Building Company pay the village $500 in lieu of a village enforcement action over the width of the driveway under ordinance section 97.03A.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? I would like to say I think that's a fair compromise. I appreciate you doing all the work, Trustee Jones, on that. As you said, maybe not everybody's going to be happy, but I agree that to go against the neighbors and to cause that kind of financial burden for a clear mistake would not be a responsible decision. Any other discussion?
Well, as long as everybody understands that this will not apply if you were to build your roof 40 feet high. We don't excuse those. Okay. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One?
Noted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it, I'll listen to you.
And
What's the fine?
I'm going to adjourn the ZBA meeting at 7:38.
Do we need a motion for that?
I'm sorry. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:38.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned, 7:38.
And title number 9, general regulations.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 7:44. Ken, roll call, please.
Sure. Blackburn?
Present.
Hageman?
Here.
Hedge?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Craybill?
Here.
Mashigian?
Here.
It's a full complement.
Thank you. I would like to just do a couple housekeeping items. The meeting is being recorded, and for the first time, it is being live streamed tonight. That link is on our website. There are also the new public comment cards over by the door. If anybody previous to next meeting would like to fill one of those ahead of time, that would be fine. I would also like to just let everybody know and thank our staff because of the power outage. They came in yesterday morning at 9 a.m. to get the packets out. So as a council, our packets were late because of the power outage, but the staff did all agree to come in Sunday morning. So thank you for doing that. I also wanted to mention that if you could please refrain, council as well as any of the public, from making comments under your breath during the meetings. It is picked up by the microphone and becomes part of the meeting. It's distracting to people watching the video as well as council members. So if you could please refrain from commenting in the audience, we would appreciate it. I also wanted to mention that for council, if you're going to be late to a meeting, if you could please just shoot a text to Ken or I so that we know in case we are close to not having a quorum that we would wait instead of canceling a meeting. If somebody is coming late, we would appreciate that. I also wanted to mention the proper way to get something on the agenda for council members is to please communicate with Ken or I ahead of time. I think something was commented on at the end of the last meeting during public comment. A comment was made something like, I'd like to see this on an agenda item. That's not how it's going to work. Like, we need to have proper communication so that we can know and understand what's going on the agenda and get any supporting documentation out with that in the packet. And that is it. So thank you for bearing with me on that. I am going to ask for an approval, a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the regular council meeting minutes from July 24th, 2023. I need a motion,
Move to approve.
a second. We'll have discussion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have discussion, Madam President. I'd like to pass out some corrections to them. If you could pass this.
Which one page?
It's one page. And what I have done is I have underlined those specific items on the agenda to be deleted and in red to be inserted. So that's the coding that I've used. And under public comments, not on published agenda, under Mr. Miller's report, I recommend replacing the word multiple with the number 34 because a significance does result in 34 of our constituents within this community stepping forward and signing a document. So I think that that really reflects the importance of the document. And likewise with Kathy Hageman's report, she responded to two reasons. One was possible litigation, and then that the motion was too vague. So the insertion of those words clarify what she spoke about. It's a clarity issue. And then the third item, because minutes should contain decisions, when we talked at length about the subject that the President brought up about should study sessions continue, as I looked at the tape over and over again, a decision was made to suspend those study sessions. And so this is just a matter of putting that into the agenda, that a agreement was reached to suspend study sessions until video funding / frequency questions are resolved. And that was restated by our councilwoman here. So these are the corrections, if you would, and clarifications that are proposed for the minutes.
Well, I think we have a motion on the floor, and I hate that we're spending a lot of time on the minutes, but last meeting, you suggested a change to the minutes that involved putting in who voted on which motion, which I thought was totally appropriate and which I was happy to support, because that was a decision that we were taking, and it's something that needs to be clearly set out in the minutes. These don't rise to that level, in my opinion. There was no vote on the study sessions. We just had a discussion and then a general conclusion. There was no resolution. From my perspective, with regards to comments made by public comments, I thought, if I was doing the minutes, I wouldn't have even, I'm not sure I would have even put in as much as was put in. To my way of thinking, now that we have the meetings online with a caption which allows you to go directly to the section, for example, the public comment section, the best evidence of what was done at the meeting is what's on the videotape. It's not what's in the minutes. And to me, having to have our Scrivener try and decide what to put in and what not to put in, and what one council member might think versus, what another council member might think is not productive when someone can spend 2 or 3 minutes just going to the video and finding out exactly what was said. So I made the motion to accept them accept the minutes as presented, and I'm standing by the motion.
I would agree that I don't agree with adding this kind of detail to the minutes. Council voted on adding detail to the minutes, and it was voted down. So to me, this is just adding more detail, kind of going around the motion and the vote, the way it went. I feel that, the word multiple in 34, I don't, to say we should say 34 instead of multiple, I just, again, I agree with Trustee Jones that if every month we have 7 people going through the minutes and saying, I see it this way, I see it that way, I see it that way, that's exactly why Robert's Rule says less is more. Because the amount of time that this council has spent, time, money, and effort and discussion is really almost inexcusable at this point. I think we have a group of residents who seem to really have zoned in on the minutes. We've spent months, we've spent hours with staff, we've paid an attorney talking about minutes, and here we are once again talking about minutes. And I think it's really starting to get irresponsible as a council. So to say, multiple or 34, okay, if I were to say something, I'd say it wasn't signed. None of those people signed that letter. Their name was included on the letter. There were no signatures on that letter. I don't know if those people
Pardon
even
me, there
feel
were
that way.
signatures. Yes, there were signatures on the bottom of the letter. See them?
That's not a signature. That is not a signature. That's people's names. I don't know if any of these people even know their name is on this letter. It's not signed. So if we want to start getting, nitpicky about it, then I would say, well, I want the word signed taken out. So this is the road that we're going down, and it's very unproductive. As well as, a resident speaking and saying the 2 reasons why we voted against expanding the minutes was possible litigation and the motion was too vague. Those were not my reasons. I don't want that in the minutes. I know why I voted in a certain way. I'm a little offended, actually, that a resident would put words into my mouth and then a council person would put that into minutes. I know why I voted a certain way. So I don't agree with putting that kind of detail into the minutes. And I would agree with Trustee Jones that, we didn't agree, we didn't make a motion on the study sessions. There's a lot of other details that go into whether or not we're going to have study sessions or not. It's not all about the funding. So again, if somebody watched the meeting and really wanted to know, they would be able to know. Reading the minutes, if this is included, is misleading in my mind. So I agree with Trustee Jones that I don't support that motion.
Well, the only motion on the table right now is my motion, correct?
Yeah.
And so people can either vote for that or against it, or I'm not so sure that, I don't even know whether you can vote to amend it now at this point in time or not, but I think.
It's been seconded?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you vote on it.
Right.
You restate the motion?
I think I just moved to approve the minutes
As presented.
as presented, yeah.
Was there another motion on the table? I want to be sure. No.
There's only one motion on the table.
So motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Correct.
Okay, I want to be sure. Is there any more discussion? All in favor to approve the minutes as presented? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is public comments not on published agenda.
Hi, I'm Carol Osmond. I've never done this before, so I don't know what I'm doing.
We just need your name and address.
Okay, 30130 Bristol Lane. And I am here in regards to, find out what's going on with the property at 29975 Bristol Lane. It has been abandoned for a very, very long time, and was owned by a couple years ago that lived there for a long time, and they've probably been gone since about the year, I don't even know, 2000, they moved to Oak Park to one of their rental houses. The house has never been finished. He tore it up, he was a builder, he was gonna redo it, it's all torn up on the inside. And in the meantime, an LLC apparently bought it in 2018, and has done nothing to it. Trees have fallen on it, animals have gotten into it. It's a tremendous eyesore. The man who had to leave lives next door to it, and he was going to attest to the fact that he lives next door to it, and he's concerned because trees are falling on his property and all of that. And there has been a notice on the door since September 16th of 2021 from the city of Southfield with all of the violations, including tree falling on the home, damaging the roof and structure. Roof is open to animals and the elements. Rear door is broken in and unsecured. The structure has been damaged by the fallen tree and is a blight to the community, and it states that they need to do something within 15 days. And again, I say, that was September 16th of 2021. So a lot of the neighbors have said, what's going on with the house? I have lived on the street for over 40 years, and everybody says to me, what's going on? What about this? What about that? I got a call from someone who said, I was walking by that house. There's a turkey in the house pecking on the window. Well, what are you going to do? And I found some people who went over, and doors are not secured. We lifted the garage door up, and we let 2 huge turkey vultures out of the house. I get those calls. So I'm concerned about the house. I'm concerned about how awful it looks. I'm concerned about the danger of the animals in it. I'm concerned that kids could get in there. Just a lot of bad things could happen, and wondered if this has been addressed at all and what's going on with the house. And again, I'm just kind of bringing it up for the neighborhood.
Okay, I appreciate your time, thank you. Could you update us?
Yeah, normally you're not really supposed to
Right.
respond to public comment, but I will be happy to answer you.
Thank you.
There's a demo permit has been applied for, and they're waiting on utility shutoffs.
All this time?
Yeah, it takes months to sometimes shut off.
Okay, well, the date of that notice was 2021.
We had to start this process again.
Okay.
So we
okay.
did.
Okay, great.
And the shutoffs are water, sewer, gas, and electric. I think electric was shut off already, but and that requires time from the utility.
Right.
As soon as that is issued, those are completed. And the last I heard from the Southfield, I can't remember the guy's title. It was. I think there was another couple of weeks to go.
Okay.
And it was. So the permit's been applied for, and it's been approved, and we're just waiting on that shut-off notice.
4 days this week, there was definitely no electricity.
Well, that's for sure. You're right. Yeah.
They had that shut off really well.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
You had at least 2 down.
Yeah. Right. No,
So-
I believe that electricity is being shut off or cut off from
Yeah.
that house for much longer than what I'm
Well,
referring to.
I know when the turkey vultures were being rescued, there was no electricity on in there because
I'm looking forward to
the people
seeing
had
that come down.
flashlights and helmets, lights or whatever, trying to figure out where the turkey was that some neighbor said was in the house. We thought she'd been drinking, but there really were birds in there. So, all right. Well, so you think it should be done shortly? They're going to tear it down?
Yeah, it's a demo
What about
order.
the owner of the property? Is it still owned by someone?
The gentleman that owns the property
Okay.
we basically forced him to apply for a demo permit.
Okay.
That's who's applied.
Okay.
He's paid all the fees.
Okay.
We're just waiting on that shut off.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. We definitely would love to
Thank you
have
for
that gone.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look, if you could inform the gentleman who had to leave, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I will let him know. Yeah, he had a call, he's a lawyer, he had a call at 8 o'clock,
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Now I get to walk home, because he was my ride. Okay.
Is there any other, yes?
I'm Maggie Van Camp, and I live on Bristol Court. And I have a concern, and I don't know if this is where to go. The house that's on the corner of Bristol Lane and Bristol Court, when you turn onto Bristol Court, it's not his property, it's the easement. There's a standing tree that had been hit by lightning. Half of it's dead and half of it's over. And now all the grass is growing up around the park. So who's responsible to get that down?
Again, I'm not supposed to respond to public
Right.
comments, but I will,
I know.
it depends on where it's growing.
It's
If
on
it's-
the village's easement.
It's within 12 feet of the edge of the road?
Yep.
All right, then that's our responsibility. Yeah.
It's not like it's tucked into woods where it's leaning and
No.
doesn't, it's
I'll take a look
right
at it
over.
tomorrow,
Okay.
and I'll have our
Thank you.
tree guy deal with it as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will
The tree, make sure to get that. Yeah.
move on to discussion topics and invite Chief Roberts. Is he still out there?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, they do.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot to report other than what's in your written submissions in terms of crime. I do want to mention a couple of things, though. We, as you may know, the number 2 person in the department, Lieutenant Mike Bastinelli, is retiring next month. And because of that, we are going to be searching for a new number 2 for the department. And we're going to do it a little bit differently this time in that we are going to, and have posted for a deputy chief position, seeking candidates who have a very good background in executive management in a police department agency, who will then come in. By the time we get hired, we're probably looking late fall, early winter. Be able to work with me for several months, and then I plan on retiring next summer, and so it would be an easy transition then for that new deputy chief to transition right into the chief's position. So we've posted for that. The posting is still open and out there. It's on Michigan Municipal League. It's on Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police website. Both you can view if you want to see it. We started taking applications for it. So far, the candidates are nothing short of exceptional that we've got from area departments, as well as some even from outside of the area. And so we're looking forward to that. The process yet after that, after we receive all of the candidates, it'll be open until September 8th, at which time myself and Roger Frazier, the village administrator in Franklin, will take the first cut at that and see which ones would be worthy of coming in and for interview would be the next phase. I'm going to guess at this point, just based on the conversations that I've had with candidates and the ones that were received, I'm going to bet that we end up interviewing 5 or 6 candidates that are just going to be outstanding in my book. Maybe even more than that. It just depends on what we get here in the next week or so in terms of applicants. But we have a plan. I wanted you to be aware of that plan. In terms of Bingham Farms' inclusion in the process, I'm going to defer to Roger and Ken to have those discussions about that. I don't know what the plan is, frankly, beyond me being involved in the initial whittle down of the candidates. And then after that, it's going to become a village matter to handle that. So excited about it, excited about the opportunity to bring in somebody in this position, and then that'll give them a chance to get through a budget cycle with me, see how we do our budgets, which start February or so, and then and get to learn both villages and all of the players involved in the thing. So excited about that process, and so far it's going very well. The storm that we had Thursday night, people referenced power being out. Yeah, there was a lot of power out in both villages. There still is some power out in, I think Bingham Farms is totally back up now, but, you're not? Okay. We still have 5 or 6 streets in Franklin, I know, that are still out of power, even though they promised to have everything done by yesterday evening. But we don't, and Tony and I were talking about this earlier, the police and fire departments don't have a special hotline number to DTE where we can find out what's going on. We use the same numbers that everybody else does. So it's really kind of sad that we just have to wait for the text messages too, just like you all do, but that's just the way it is. But in terms of your storm damage, you had, and I communicated with Ken about this, you had a number of trees that came down over the roadway. The officers are really good about at least getting them cleared enough where one car could get by on a couple of the roads, like Bingham Road, Woodland in particular. They were completely blocked at one point during the evening, and so the officers did a pretty good job just dragging them to the side or cutting them up a little bit and getting that done. And then the last thing I'll mention is, in Franklin every year they have a major Labor Day event. It involves a art fair and parade and all kinds of things. If you're interested and you want to take your shots at me, now is your chance. I'm going to be in the dunk tank. I'll be the first person in. And so if you want to come and try and knock me into the water, please have at it. Come on. And but I will have a water gun this year and I'll be shooting back. Just so. So that's all I have, unless you have some questions for me. Yes, sir.
Chief Roberts, just to clarify the process for the hiring the deputy chief.
Yeah.
You'll have final say, or you'll have final
Me?
say?
I don't have final say.
It
No.
will be the administrator.
And village administrator and council. I think council probably has the final say in that, honestly. But I think, between myself and the administrator, we'll have a lot of input there, but it certainly is not my final say. That said, I think I know, a lot of these candidates that are coming in, and I can have really good insight that I can pass on some of them. Others I don't know at all, so it'll be required to, do a good interview on everybody. But no, I am not the final deciding person. And then the plan is that actually that deputy chief position will go away when I retire and he or she moves up to be the chief. The deputy chief position will go away, and then we'll go back. The number 2 person will revert back to a lieutenant's position, which is a unionized position. That's part of the command officers union. This deputy chief position is an at-will employee. So if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't, after we are with that person for 5-6 months and we determine, hey, it's not a good fit, it's easy to let them go. Whereas if you promote somebody to lieutenant and they're in the union, it's not as easy. It's damn near impossible, actually.
The reason I asked that, I think you've done a fantastic job during my time here at Bingham Farms. So I was hoping you would be able to, weigh. It sounds like you'll be able to weigh in on the initial candidates.
Yes.
I would guess that the Franklin Council will weight your thoughts heavily. I would hope they will.
The last time my contract was up for renewal a year and a half ago now, one of the things that I had added in there was that I was to be an equal partner in the selection of my replacement when I decided to retire. So it's right in my contract. They have to allow me to have a voice in there. And so, and honestly, it's going to be a very difficult decision based on what I've seen so far. There are candidates coming in here that have master's degrees, have been there, done that in other 8 area departments and things. And so it's going to be a very difficult, it's a good problem to have, but it's going to be a difficult problem to have. The other thing I mentioned too is, with Mike Bass and I leaving, he's been great with me. He's a fantastic lieutenant to have. His party, if you want to come, is Friday night, September 15th. It's going to be right at the Krieger House, which is right next to the police department there in downtown Franklin. Love to have you come by, and I know Mike would love to have you stop by too if anybody. So it's open to the public. It's open to everybody. So we can send. In fact, I'll send Ken. I'll send you the flyer, and maybe you can distribute it out. Mm-hmm. That'd be great. Anything else?
Are there any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Come on.
Chief Everbuck, for coming.
Yeah, good evening. Later night. So I'll keep it brief. You have my written report. The only thing I wanted to add with the recent storms that we've been experiencing in the villages and around southeast Michigan, we remain to have several runs with regard to carbon monoxide issues in homes. So just as a piece of advice, if you have a generator, find out where it exhausts and take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. We've had several homes that we were responding to with gas issues, natural carbon monoxide gas issues that had the generators running for days at a time. So running a generator for days at a time is not a safe thing. Generators do need a little bit of time to cool down and get rechecked for oil. Typically when you have to refill it with gas or diesel, whatever fuel of choice is, to just let it cool down just a little bit. And if you're having issues, obviously we're there to help out, but if people could step up and understand how things work in their own home and take care of potential issues that certainly will not only keep us from coming out, but could keep someone from getting very ill or worse as a result of carbon monoxide issues. So, other than that, with regard to the power lines down, we did have some, and just as Chief Roberts was indicative of, that we don't have the secret number to Detroit Edison. We also don't have special tree crews that will cut down trees in the middle of, we'll say, dead-end streets that are wrapped around wires. We use alternating current to power our homes, which means the line is not always going to be energized. So if anyone sees a wire, whether it's arcing or sparking, keep away from it. If you don't know what you're doing, you could get killed very, very easily. We don't want that to happen. But what we would rather say is we'll come out, we'll do what we can, and typically what we do is we notify the neighbors to stay away. Don't have their kids play there, don't let their dogs out, etc. But we would rather have people get frustrated that it's taking so long than have people get injured or killed because they tried to take matters into their own hands. So we're finding that I'm finding, personally observing with the storms getting more and more intense of recent, people's frustration levels are growing and their patience is shortening, but the danger is still there. So now's a great time to prepare for not being able to get out of your driveway. Now's a great time to prepare for what happens if your cable goes out. There are solutions. They're not that expensive, and it's just a little bit of preparedness. So I'll leave you with that. Any questions you have, I'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you for the opportunity.
I have a comment. This was a wonderful mailing.
Oh.
And very, very thrilled to see you put something out of this quality.
Yeah, thank you.
And acknowledging the role of the volunteers in the fire department.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Chief, you mentioned in your report that there were 2 safety inspections that you did this past month in Bingham Farms on 2 buildings on Telegraph Road. Were there any issues that were uncovered on any of your?
Nothing thus far that warrants reinspection. There's always some, typically we're seeing housekeeping type issues. And those, while they can be notice-worthy, they're not anything that would create any kind of a danger. So you'll see that we just completed inspection of the Beecham Roser property. So there's 5 more buildings that you'll see in my next report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Were you a part of the telegraph center that had the air conditioning unit that was, what ended up being the problem with that? That was making all the noise?
I don't know what
You didn't know
you're...
anything about that?
I don't believe anybody called the fire department on that.
Just police, okay.
No. Okay.
No other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the manager's report, and I believe Ken has a couple of things.
I do. It's a short report this month, but I do have a couple of items just to remind everybody. Taxes, your village taxes are due Thursday, August 31st. For all those watching and live streaming or watching a tape meeting, the 31st is the deadline. And secondly, after Labor Day, the office hours for the village office will now be from 9 to 4:30 rather than from 9 to 4. Yevgeny and Bill have both agreed to this without additional pay or anything of that nature. But it seems like we're getting more and more visitors, and it seems like we should stay open a little bit later. So, just as a reminder, eventually we'll order a new sticker to put on the door that has the office hours. That's that.
Thank you. Thank you
May
very
I
much.
ask, the one item that you had is concerning the disease on the evergreens.
Mm-hmm.
Can you recall where that was? Where you?
With trees?
Yeah, where in the village did you see it occur?
Oh, it's a lot of places.
Jeez.
It's, for whatever reason, I see them more on Bristol than I do anywhere else, but they're on every street, I believe. And there's a couple of different diseases that I really can't explain, but I'm sure some of you have seen this as well. There's almost no recovery
Yeah,
either.
there's invasive vines just literally growing around stems and limbs and stuff, so, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I think it's extraordinary that the three of you guys have agreed to work an extra half hour each day, 2.5 hours a week, and without additional pay. And on behalf of the village, thank you for doing that. It will make the office more accessible to people in the village. I think it's a really good step, and I appreciate the three of you stepping up and doing that.
Thank you.
I agree. Anybody else? Next, we have Yevgeny's Economic Development Coordinator's Report. Yevgeny, do you have anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add unless there are questions.
Any questions on that report? Thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Just, Evgeny, if you could keep us up to date on that Superior Bank building as you learn more. It sounded like it's in progress, but I think that's an important one.
Yes, from our conversation with the building manager, if anything happens, or what's the other, owner, manager, I say manager to be on the safe side. But if anything does occur as far as them finding a new tenant, they're looking at the very earliest 5-6 months from now, just because of how long that process normally takes.
Sure. You just.
And that's how long it would take if they had one primed and ready to go now.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the turkeys can move in.
I'm afraid they don't pay very good rent. Maybe on Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to new business, and this is small cell ordinance first reading. Dirk, do you want to introduce this for us?
Sure. As you said, this is the first reading. The trend in the communication business is to move away from the tall, what they call macro towers, cell towers, towards this more compact form of technology. Generally, they call them small cells. They're attached oftentimes to telephone poles. They can be from the size of a football to 25 feet in diameter, or 25 feet cubic volume. But the long and the short of it is, we currently don't have an ordinance regulating them at all. And which means that these companies that are coming in, and there's a number of different companies proposing to do these all over the state of Michigan and primarily in southeastern Michigan, including Bingham Farms. If you don't have an ordinance, you can't regulate where they put them, the size, the height of the poles, all the rest. It's complicated some by the fact that in 2018, the Michigan legislature passed the Small Wireless Communications Facilities Deployment Act, which basically says, municipality, you can adopt an ordinance regulating them, but these are the regulations that you can use. So they let you have some regulation, but they also restrict what you can do and where you can put them and what fees you can charge and all the rest. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have no ability to regulate them, which is where you are right now. And so you want to adopt an ordinance that complies with that act but gives you some ability to regulate. And that's what's before you today. unfortunately, you don't have a lot of control, but some of the control that you do have is to limit the height of the poles that they're attached to limit the size, the cubic size of these things, to limit the height of the antennas, and a number of other things. So this proposed ordinance sitting in front of you today does allow you to do those things to the extent that we're allowed to do them by the state law that was passed in 2018. So it's not perfect, because in the perfect world, you'd regulate them completely, but you don't have that power. But it's certainly better than what you have now, which is no regulations, and somebody could literally come in and put them all over the city, or all over the village, in pretty much any way they wanted to. So we're trying to prevent that with this ordinance. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you very much for getting us on this task. And we have it here in our packet. It's quite lengthy.
And it is first reading, and I'm sure due to the power outage and the packets, many people haven't read through it.
Right.
But everybody will get a second crack, at the second reading. So.
Right. So at this point, for those that have taken a look at it, are there any questions or just general questions that have come up? Yes.
So, because of the power outage, I did not get to go through it with as much detail as I would like to, but can I ask you, is this like sort of a model act that came from someplace else, or, I mean, where did it originate? Is it
this ordinance?
Yeah, this ordinance.
Well, Mike Sulhaney was an attorney in our office. He was tragically killed last July in a biking accident. But he was on the panel that was involved with the legislature in putting together the state act. So once the state act went through, and they didn't take all of Mike's suggestions, obviously, because he would have been more municipality friendly, but they took his input. So once the state passed that act, he then developed an ordinance, which is before you today, that other communities like Bloomfield Township and West Bloomfield and Auburn Hills, and I'm probably missing one, Bloomfield Hills, I believe, have adopted. So that's where that came from.
The reason I'm asking is because I noticed some words in it, some terms in it.
There is a term that I noticed today that needs to be fixed, and the term supervisor was used throughout, and that needs to be village manager. That was
one that I looked at. Another one was, there was the term village board. And as my former colleague Mel Ettinson would say, remind us, like,
village council.
Every month, we're not a board, we're a council.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that one, but I did notice the supervisor.
Yeah, and the other one I noticed was department means any village administration, and I don't know that we have the term village administration defined anywhere in our other ordinances. So I would ask if maybe between now and the second reading, we could just look through this in connection with our other ordinances to make sure that they're consistent.
I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
For the items that we can regulate, like the height of the pole, the cubic size, are these at the lowest, the smallest, or are they somewhere in the range?
So under state law, you can regulate the poles to 40 feet. So we were regulating them to 40 feet. So we're going as far as we can under the state law.
So as
cubic,
restrictive as possible.
As restrictive as possible, that's correct. And with respect to the volume of these things, because they're shaped like little footballs, they can be big footballs, but it's 31 square feet, I think it is. But
which is the smallest, the
biggest that you
biggest allowed.
That you can't make it any smaller than that. That's about, yeah. You're right.
Okay.
Yes, we have pushed the envelope to the extent that state law, this law here, allows us to push the envelope.
Are there any other questions? Like I said, we will get another chance to read this, and maybe just because of the timing of the power outage and that, if you do read it and you have questions or concerns, maybe pass those to Ken ahead of time. If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So that when the second reading comes, we might have some clarification if there's things that maybe other people would have the same question.
I'm sorry, I did have one more.
Sure.
Maybe I missed it when I read it, but so how would the village has the opportunity to monetize this, right? So we can charge.
Yeah, I'm smiling because, yes, the statute gives you the ability to monetize it, but it's disgraceful what we're allowed to do. I mean,
Disgraceful.
It's like $30 annually per unit. I mean, so the answer is yeah. There is provisions in the act for monetizing it, but it's very nominal. I mean, very nominal. It's the best way I can put it. As trying to be as diplomatic as I can to the state legislature. So yeah. It's not like the Metro Act and a few others that are much more not profitable, something that produce much more revenue than this act is allowing. And I mean, I can just tell you the reason for it. The reason for it is the last couple of administrations. It doesn't matter Republican or Democratic, but the last couple of administrations on a federal level have really pushed for expanded communications, and which is good because we all rely on that. So the state law was also subject to a lot of FCC orders that the federal government opposed in the states that the state law had to comply with. So the downside of the federal government and the FCC doing everything it can to require municipalities and states to allow communications is the taking away of a lot of municipal control over it. And that's just the reality of it. So, I mean, I guess the rationale is, what you make up for an increased ability to communicate, you lose in terms of monetizing it and municipal regulation.
Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, like I said, we will see this again. Thank you for clarification.
No problem.
Today. Next, we have the master agreement from municipal street lighting. This is a resolution. Bill, would you like to present this?
Sure. I'll just comment on it by the impetus of how this started was as I'm driving in, we have two streetlights in the village, one right at the end, they're both on the south side of 13, one's at the end of Bingham Road and the other one is at Bristol Lane in 13, and I noticed that they were on during the daylight. So I see the bills every day. I called DET and said, how are they on a timer? Is it you guys set a signal to it to keep it on? So that started leading to more and more questions. I asked how old they are, and they said they don't even have it in the file of when or why it was, so they have to be at least 20 years old. And the fact that they were mercury vapor, I just asked, because there's more efficient ways. Is there something that we can do to improve not only the environment, but reduce the cost and increase the illumination because they're so old? And that led to DTE coming back and answering questions as to what the cost would be, what the payback would be, and what costs were associated with updating it to LED lighting. So that's the proposal that you have, or the resolution that you have in front. In a nutshell, I can answer any questions that you have, but the baseline is it's 48% reduction in cost. And there is a rebate that we would get after we initialize the $600 and some odd dollars that we would have to pay to start the conversion. Yes, that's 608. But if you look at it, I look at it as a quick payback, less than a year, 0.8 of a year, and it's literally 47.9914% cost reduction. So I'm always looking for every little bit that we can save and help improve for the residents and for the village. We can look at it. I also asked the question, by the way, was there any regulation as to if we needed the streetlights? What happens if we just shut them off or they removed them? And they said, since they've been installed for 5 years, there would be no cost to reduce it. But then just thinking about it, one's across from Bingham School, right? And it's illumination, it's there. The sidewalk runs along the north side of 13 Mile. I would think that the residents would just want some type of safety and illumination as they walk through. I don't know how many residents walk down 13 when it's dusk, but I'm sure there are, and it'd be nice to make sure that the illumination that these LEDs would give off are better, because mercury vapor over the number of years starts to just deteriorate. So just wanted to bring it in front of council, and it's up to you whether or not you'd want me to pursue and move forward with it.
Bill, where did you say they, because there's one at the end of Bingham Road.
Yes.
On 14 Mile.
Yes.
Okay.
13.
I'm sorry, 13 Mile. 13 Mile. Both are on 13. Both are on 13, yes.
Okay, there's another one on 14 Mile at the end of Bingham Road.
Then that's.
That would not be in the village. The village only has two.
It's the other, it's Bloomfield Township.
It's on our side.
We're not getting a bill for it.
No?
Never mind.
All right.
Could our DRCS here?
It's possible. Well, I doubt it, actually, because these are, would be two, maybe. When you put a packet together on Sunday morning, you're bound to forget something. And there is a sample resolution here. It's very short. I'm going to pass it down. Just take one, please. And, no, this is a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little deeper.
If you so choose, we pass a resolution. We will move forward with getting the lights replaced and hopefully realize the savings, as Bill said, less than a year.
Good catch. Both caught it.
We are entering an agreement, which is why this comes before council, just for education purposes. But I think it's a great thing. Thank you so much for your diligence in finding every penny we can find. I appreciate that. And
This has been reviewed by Dirk as well, the agreement.
are there any other questions?
Quick question for Dirk. Do we need to specifically say who's signing this on behalf of the village? The resolution doesn't say. I think our manager ordinance allows for the manager to sign things, but I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not.
You can designate the manager simply, and I haven't seen the resolution that just got passed out, but you could add to the resolution, say, and authorize the village manager to sign.
Okay. Good.
So,
Do you need me to read it? Can
You need a motion?
A resolution?
A resolution?
Yes.
so somebody could present the resolution as presented. or-
So I would present that it be resolved that the village enter into the DTE Energy Master and Purchase Agreement for the replacement upgrade to LED streetlights that can be signed by the village manager.
Second.
And it's a roll call.
Is there any
Right.
further discussion?
Oh,
Yeah,
any
then roll call.
discussion? And roll call.
Roll call. Blackburn.
Aye.
Hageman.
Aye.
Hedge.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Craybill. Mashigian.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you very much.
We are going to stick with Bill and talk about the municipal credit and community credit contract for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Madam President. The second resolution, and I'm learning as I go, that the municipal credit and community credit contract for fiscal year 2024 gets presented to us. They break it out both under a municipal credit, which you'll have in your packet that's outlined, it's $1,054. And they also then break it out in another section for $1,711 for the community credit. These funds together are passed through to Next. That helps provide transportation services for our seniors and folks that have disabilities and difficulty to get around for transportation. So you'll find that, again, the resolution is here in order to move forward with and approve that the funds and credits be passed on directly to Next through the village.
This is something that happens annually. You'll see this again next year, same time.
Yes, resolution to adopt, correct.
Would anybody like to present the resolution to adopt?
I would present the resolution on page 62 of the packet as included there.
Second.
Any discussion? And this is a roll call.
Yes. Michigan,
Yes.
Craybill,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Hedge, Hageman,
Aye.
Blackburn.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move on to old business, which is the temporary outdoor activities and events ordinance, third reading.
Okay. Let me make a few comments.
Wanna start?
Last month we discussed this during the second reading, and a question about insurance came up. Dirk and I had discussed it, and it's Dirk's opinion that that would not be something that we'd have to require in the ordinance. Do you have anything to add to that, Dirk?
No, generally you would not necessarily require insurance and adding the village as an additional insured unless it was an event either on on village property, or an event that the village was maybe partnering on, or if a service is being provided to the village. None of those are the case here. In this circumstance, it wouldn't be necessary, in my opinion.
Thank you.
With that, I'm asking that you would, as council, approve the temporary outdoor activities and events ordinance as presented.
I would move that we approve the temporary outdoors activities and events ordinance as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Next is the treasurer's report. Bill?
3 times the charm.
Yep.
Council, you'll find in your packet disbursements for both the general fund and the gas fund. So disbursement report runs from July 20th, 2023 through August 24th, 2023, in the total amount of $185,727.22. Reflects all the bills that we pay that come under the general fund. For the gas and weight fund, the disbursement report is for the same time frame, July 20th, 23 through August 24th, 23, and the total payments that were issued out of that fund were $5,232.97. The total of both those funds disbursements were $190,960.19, and there is a motion in order to approve, and this time I will stop so that we can have the motion.
Do I hear a motion to pay the bills for August of 2023?
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
I second the motion.
Right.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item on the treasurer's report is our profit and loss statement, budget versus actual. So as everyone knows, we are now converted over to BS&A. We have loaded all the new budget. There's still some tweaking, but we've loaded all the new budget for this new fiscal year in there. I went back and looked at it, and we're tracking exact same percentages for both revenue and expense as we were last year at this same time. So obviously, it's the first month of the new fiscal year. We're at 16.15% on the revenue side. Last year, we were at 16.0%. And on the total expenditure side, we're at 7.11% of the budget. Last year, it was 7.20%. So again, we pretty much know what the bills are that come in on a cyclical time frame during this month for the village, and we're within tracking. So that's moving along, and all the amendments that you all approved back for the last fiscal year have also been entered. So we're still working through trying to close out last year's, and we're making great progress. So if there's any questions regarding the profit and loss statement, I'd be more than willing to help answer or look into it further for you.
questions?
I'd move to approve the profit loss budget action report as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Terrific. And the last item on the treasurer's report is current investments for July 2023. The good news is,
It's not in the agenda.
I'm sorry.
It's not on the agenda.
I'm sorry, I had a question around that because I thought it was going to be in the report, but it's not, it wasn't in the packet.
It's not even on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, normally, it's not a separate agenda item, it's part of the financial statements.
Oh, is that
It's part-
something that we're going to vote on?
The question is that page in the packet or not?
I don't see it.
Okay, I don't either.
I saw that it, on the treasurer's report, page 69, it said it was going to be on there,
Okay.
but it wasn't in there. I think it's something I look at every month.
Right.
And it's not in there, so I was actually going to ask if it could be included next month, but it looks like maybe you meant to include it now that I see page 60.
Yeah, I know with, I sent all the files over with everything with the power out. It's very possible that it didn't get active to the packet, but I apologize. Where do we go? I mean, I could do an overview, just a quick overview, and then we can add it. I don't know if we amend it or if we add it
What's
to
the
next
best way
month.
to do this?
I think the best way to do it would be to discuss it when you have the documents in front of us.
Okay.
It could wait a month, I believe.
All right.
Okay.
Can I make one comment, though? My one comment is, with interest rates going up and some of the investments that we had that expired, we've re-upped new CDs and new investments at a higher interest rate, which is a good thing.
Could we have in next month's packet both months' investment reports in there
Sure.
so I can see?
Yep.
So I don't want to jump the months.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you want us to make sure the trailing and the current, so we will make sure that we do, I'll make sure that we do that. And I apologize to council. I didn't realize it wasn't in there.
That's okay. Everything was
If I missed something, my bad.
a little bit difficult this month with the power. So that's our only thing we're good. We are going to go around for trustee comments. Trustee Hedge?
No comment.
Trustee Howard?
The manager's report talked about having a draft or a copy of the new quarterly newsletter just devoted to the road situation. I'm wondering how that is progressing and if we might be able to have some preview of that prior to it being mailed so that we could prepare for any comments that might be coming.
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
But it'll get done, and I'll get it to you all ahead of time. Yes.
Trustee Hageman?
Again, thanks for coming in, guys. Sorry I didn't get a chance to look at it. And I think so far what I've seen in the minutes, I think you're doing a great job keeping it up. I've stated that before. That's all I have to say this time.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan.
I'd like to thank the three of you for also coming into the office and providing services a little later in the day. I think it's really commendable, and I truly appreciate it. And coming in on Sunday morning and doing this, unbelievable the challenges that you guys have faced trying to get this together. So we appreciate it very much, because you did it for us.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Craven?
I would just note for the residents that just to highlight that next month's meeting is on the 18th, if anyone would like to join. I think it's a little 1 week earlier than normal, so.
It's in observance of Yom Kippur.
Yes.
And so we moved the meeting up by a week. Yes.
And so I think we've had great increased participation from the village, which is great, so no other comments.
Trustee Jones?
I just wanted to publicly thank the Village Planning Commission and its chairman, Bill Burrell, for all the work they did on the temporary outdoor activities and events ordinance, which we passed tonight.
Very nice. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 8:46.
And good to see you there.
Thank you. I'll be at next month as well. I will not be, I'll be at next month.